So, welcome to Series 1, Episode 7 of the Better Humans podcast. These podcasts are based around the theme of making a self development journey or personal transformation to become a better human and discussing what makes a better human. My name is Greg Pfeiffer, and I'm your host for this series. This episode is titled A Hard Habit to Break. It is said that to change your life, you have to change the way you live. But what does this mean? Let me start by telling you the story of Jack. Now, Jack was a business owner and salesman. For many years, he was a smoker, until one day he made the decision to quit. And he did, just like that, went cold turkey and never smoked a cigarette again. However, Jack noticed something strange the first few weeks he gave up. He kept reaching out for his packet of cigarettes. When he got in the car to drive to work, when he sat down to drink a cup of coffee, when he went to call a client. Without thinking, his hand would reach out instinctively for a packet of cigarettes as he had done for many years. It was just habit, and it was hard to break that habit. Although the cigarette addiction had been overcome, the habitual behavior remained. The reason? The triggers for the behavior were still present. The getting into the car, drinking coffee, and making a phone call. A study in 2002 found that approximately 43% of our daily behaviors are performed out of habit. Now, much of our habitual behavior goes unnoticed as we tend not to engage in any self-analysis when we are performing routine tasks. Now, it's often said we are creatures of habit. Actually, we are creatures of habits and rituals. A habit is defined as a routine of behavior that is repeated regularly and tends to happen subconsciously. The important thing to note here is that the act is performed subconsciously. A ritual is defined as a way of doing something in which the same actions are done in the same way every time. And many of our daily routines are ritual habits. Some are performed due to superstition, especially among sports people who may have a ritual of getting dressed the same way before an event or having something as part of their pre-event preparation. So how do we form habits? This occurs via a process known as habit formation, where a behavior which is repeated regularly becomes automatic or habitual. The more a behavior is repeated, the more it becomes automatic or a habit. A study found that the average length of time for habit formation to occur was 66 days, with a range of 18 to 254 days. Now, there are three main components to habit formation which form what is called a habit loop. There is the context cue, behavioral repetition, and the reward. The context cue can be a certain activity, a time of day, a location. It is something that triggers the habitual behavior. The cue becomes associated with the behavior and allows the habitual behavior to begin automatically. It becomes the trigger for the behavior. Now, the routine, obviously, is the habits and the behavior that you exhibit. The reward is whatever reinforces that habit loop. Now, habits may be triggered by a goal initially, but over time, that goal becomes less necessary as the habit becomes automatic. Now, interestingly, intermittent or uncertain rewards are especially effective in promoting habit learning, with this theory frequently applied in gambling. Now, there is what is called associative learning underlying our habits, which is characterized by the slow, incremental accrual of information over time in our procedural memory. Procedural memory usually operates below the level of conscious awareness and allows us to perform a variety of acts with little thought, from tying up our shoes to complex tasks like flying an aircraft. Now, it's important to understand that habits can either help or hinder the goals a person has set for themselves. And remember that all habits form due to the initial presence of a goal. Goals guide habits by providing the initial outcome motivation to make the behavior repeat itself. Now, there can be a conflict when a habit forces one action or behavior, but a conscious goal is pushing for a different action. This can make us perform the habitual behavior rather than the behavior we consciously want to do. We will favor the habit that works against our goals over a behavior that supports our goals. Now, it's also important to note that the ability to override the behavior through willpower is what differentiates a habit from an addiction. And a high degree of self-control may influence the formation of habits, especially bad habits, and in turn affect behavior. Habits get harder to change as you get older or the longer they have been in place due to the increased number of repetitions accumulated over time. This is the basis for saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks, implying that old dogs and older people are set in their ways and difficult to change. We may all recognize in ourselves bad habits, and the sooner they are recognized, the easier it is to fix them. Now, in some cases, it may be better to not try to eliminate the habit, but replace it with an alternate coping mechanism. Implementation intentions is a strategy that can override some aspects of bad habits, but seem to subdue rather than eliminate the habit. This is when you make a plan to do something to counteract the effects of the bad habit. It's called an if-then situation. If a certain situation arises that usually triggers a bad behavior, then you have a plan to counter that bad behavior. For example, you may have a habit of coming home each day after being at the gym and just throwing your sweaty gym clothes in the laundry basket and leaving them there, not doing the washing until the basket is overflowing and the laundry smells. You may then make an if-then such as, if the laundry basket is half full, or if there is another set of gym clothes in there when I put my gym clothes in, I will do the washing immediately. And if this rule is backed by a strong intention to follow it through, it can override the bad habit. Now, as stated earlier, the habit loop consists of a cue, the routine or behavior, and a reward. Now, there are many techniques for removing bad habits, and one is to remove the reinforcers or triggers of a habit. The reason that habits can be so hard to break is that a part of the brain, the basal ganglia, appears to remember the context that triggers a habit and can cause a habit to return if the trigger reappears. While ever the trigger remains, the basal ganglia will trigger the habit. So other strategies to eliminate bad habits include trying to modify the habitual behavior or to remove the reward for the behavior if it still exists. There are also some psychological strategies such as cognitive behavioral therapy to try and modify or eliminate bad habits. In a previous episode, I talked about doing a life assessment and listing your good and bad habits. Now, this may be a good time to revisit that list or to make a new list which examines your habits and routines more deeply. Think about the habits and try and identify what the situations are that trigger the habits. Then try and think back what the original reward was for that habit and does it still exist? If it does, can you remove the reward for that habit? Then consider if these habits are working to take you towards your goals or are blocking you from achieving your goals. Now remember, as your life goals change, habits that may have been good can transform into bad habits. This is why you have to change the way you live to change your life. Now, some habits are known as keystone habits, and these can influence the formation of other habits. For example, the type of person who takes care of their body and has a habit of exercising regularly can influence more easily habits of eating better. So these ideas can also be thought of as our persona. So knowing that habits start out due to reinforcing a goal, changing your goals can be a first step to developing new good habits. In particular, changing your keystone habits can have a profound effect on forming good habits as it spreads into related areas of your life. You can begin to develop new habits and now support your new keystone habits as they all work towards your personal goals. Your new goals provide rewards for the new behaviors and help to reinforce them. A great resource for learning how to effectively change your habits is the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. He presents basically 4 main strategies to developing good habits. 1. Make the habit obvious. 2. Make the habit simple. 3. Make the habit fun. And 4. Make the habit rewarding. Ways to make a habit obvious include a technique called stacking. This is where you attach a new habit to an existing habit. This way, an existing habit is the trigger for the new habit, and this makes it more likely to occur. Also, setting up the habit. Have the things you need to perform the habit in place, visible, easily accessible. Remove things that could distract you from the habit or could put you off performing the habit. For example, place things you need to take the next day next to the door where they can be easily seen. Planning the habit. This is where you make a conscious decision when and where you will perform the habit, so you have an intention to perform the habit. It fits easier into your day and makes it more likely to occur. Ways to make the habit simple include make starting the habit easy. So set a reminder to perform the habit, possibly on your phone, have an alarm, or mark something on your calendar. Get ready ahead of time. Have what you need to perform the habit already out and assembled for when the time comes. For example, pack your gym bag the night before so it's ready to take with you to work, or it's already there when you feel it's time to go to the gym. It's not something that will delay you by not having your gym gear ready. Start with quick habits. Habits that are short in duration, say less than 2 minutes, are easy to start with. Ways to make habits fun include mixing some fun with important tasks that may seem hard or laborious. For example, you may mix a visit to a coffee shop or a scenic location as part of your exercise routine. Be around people who are good at doing what you want to do. So this can be an advantage of going to a gym class or joining a group based around a new interest or hobby you want to develop. If it's a hard task, doing something to get you pumped before performing the task, a podcast or some music. Finally, the most important strategy is to make the habit rewarding. As I mentioned before, all habits start with being rewarded for achieving some goal. So, to improve the chances of making a new behavior a habit, ensure you know what the reward is for the behavior and what goals it is helping you to achieve. Now, ways to do this include celebrate the small wins, because the more often your behavior achieves a goal and makes you feel good, the more likely it will persist. Track your habits. Mark off your habits on a calendar or some form of record every time you perform them. This can also show consistently and allow for some small wins. Get back on the horse. Don't bash yourself up if you miss a day. Just make sure you get back on track the next day or as soon as possible. Making new habits and eliminating or replacing habits that no longer serve us is one of the most important aspects involved in transforming your life. It won't be easy, it won't be comfortable, as old habits clash with your new goals in life and try to persist, even if they work against your new goals. Having a high level of self-control will certainly help, and it will be harder if you feel you have little control over your life. But taking some time out to plan the changes, making small steps where necessary, will help to build momentum. Consistency and repetition will lead to the formation of the habit and becoming a part of your life without thinking. We are what we do, so make sure what you are doing is consistent with who you want to be. And the formation of daily habits that serve our goals is a great way to achieve this. I hope you have enjoyed this podcast. If you have, please help it grow by sharing on your socials. Please feel free to leave a comment or feedback if your platform allows it. For any more information, please feel free to contact me at contact@thebetterhumansproject.com. And until next time, take care, work on becoming a better human. Bye for now.